Hey everyone, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. Well, I am out here on an early morning in fresh snow, a couple inches of fresh snow in the Ochiko Mountains. And I wanted to discuss with you guys some of my favorite and what I consider absolute essential items to have out here in the wintertime for survival. Now take note, this is not a complete kit list. It's not an all-inclusive list of everything you should have. There'll probably be items that you'll say, why didn't he mention that? Basically, I'm just touching on some of the things that I consider to be absolutely essential, at least for here in the Ochiko Mountains during winter, that I have found to be essential, useful, and some of them personal favorites. So let's jump right in. Clothing. If you're going to be out, you need to be dressed for worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, your vehicle gets stuck in the snow and you can't get back to town. You're going to have to walk. You're going to have to stay the night. You're going to have to wait for search and rescue. And if you let somebody know where you're going and when you are supposed to be back, which is recommended here, search and rescue will come look for you if you don't make it back. So bring extra clothing for the worst case scenario. I mean, you're coming out here in a vehicle, throw an extra coat in the truck, throw a sleeping bag in the truck, throw a wool blanket in the truck, throw some gear with you. And then when you leave your vehicle to take off for a walk, like right now, there are people all over the Ochiko Mountains going out looking for Christmas trees. Some of them are driving down some pretty snowy, muddy roads that they may not come back out of. Last year, there were vehicles left out here for the entire winter because they couldn't get them out till spring. And you want to make sure you're dressed. So when you leave your vehicle, warm gloves. You don't want your hands to get frostbit, lose the dexterity. These are good wool gloves. Refrigerwear is the brand. I think everything I'm going to mention is on Amazon. If it's not, I'll make a note of it. But to the best of my knowledge, everything I'm going to go through on this list is on Amazon. So layers of wool. When you get out of your truck, put on, a couple layers of wool sweatshirts, and then, or fleece. This is fleece, my outerwear, with a couple layers of wool under that. I've got just a simple wool cap. I've got wool gloves. I've got all the stuff with me to make a fire, which I'll touch on in a minute. So I'm good. I'm good when I get out here. I'm going to be warm while I'm walking around, warm while I'm on the move. And if I can't make it back to my rig, I'll get a little fire going and I'll stay warm by the fire. Okay, let me pause you guys and move you down here for a second to one of my absolute most favorite pieces of winter wear. Okay. These are Danner pronghorns with 1,200 grams of Thinsulate. I have been wearing these out here for years in the wintertime. They keep my feet dry, and the 1,200 grams of Thinsulate, they keep my feet warm. I walk across the creeks, the winter creeks in these, and my feet stay dry. I walk around out here in the snow all day long, and my feet stay warm. And that is an absolute must. I can tell you, people get frostbit feet. They wear something that's not insulated and their feet freeze. They wear something that's not waterproof. They're walking around in the snow. They try to cross a stream and their feet get wet and they end up in real trouble. So the right clothing, head covering, hand covering, the right footwear, Danner pronghorns, 1,200 grams of Thinsulate is what I really like. That's where we start. All right, let's, one more item. I'm actually gonna, it's not cold enough to where I really need this today, but I have it with me and it's something that I just started using and really, really like it a lot. This is a buff. And I'll take it off in a second. It's about this long, which you'll see, but it's all fleece, warm fleece. around my neck. And then it gives me a big long extension piece that I can put over my head. If it's really cold, I can put it over my mouth. If it's really, really cold, I can put it over my mouth and my nose. And there's just all kinds of options that you can use this for. Let me peel this off for you guys. So I was saying, this thing is really, really long. And look at that nice warm fleece lining around my neck. And it gets much colder, and I will be putting this on. It's borderline. It's called a buff, B-U-F-F. Of course, I chose camouflage. It just goes with everything else I wear. But you can get these in bright colors too, which you may want. You might want bright orange or something for hunting season or for possible search and rescue. But you can just roll this up, compact, and put it in a pocket, a chest rig, whatever. And, you know, if I had to stay the night out here, of course, I'd get my little fire going, but I would put this up over my face, my ears, my head, under my hat like I just did. This nice fleece wrapped around my neck. And that would just add to the overall keeping my body warm. My neck, face, head, areas that I would lose a lot of heat, all would be warm. Only my eyes would be exposed. And my hands in my wool gloves would be warm. Cut some fir boughs underneath me. We'll get to that in a minute. And insulation. So highly recommended. These are on Amazon, a variety of colors. Buff, B-U-F-F. Great piece of gear. And just a multitude of uses. You know, use your imagination. It's long enough to turn into a sling or to wrap it around a sprained knee or a sprained elbow. And it weighs practically nothing, and it doesn't take up much room. Okay, what about shelter? I got the start of a shelter right here behind me, kind of a pole framework between a couple trees. So I got all the big trees above me, got a real tall lean-to behind me. And of course, this is just the framework. It needs a lot more boughs, but a lean-to, an A-frame, which basically this is under some big trees. So I already have a whole bunch of cover, and I'm surrounded by lots and lots of pine needles, tons of pine needles. Large 55-gallon drum liner, highly recommended piece of kit to have out here in the winter for hauling pine needles back to throw inside this, hauling fir boughs back, using it for a mattress, using it for an emergency cover, emergency roof, whatever. But back to what I was talking about, all these poles just didn't magically appear. Yes, I can find some laying around, but there's some that have to be cut. And folding saw for the winter time out here is absolutely a must. Poles like this, I might get lucky and find enough to make a lean-to, and I might be in an area where there's some that are down, but they're 15, 20 feet long. I gotta saw up a couple 6 or 8 foot poles to do a quick debris hut. It's only gonna take me a few minutes, and there's lots of dead snags around here. I can saw up some larger pieces of firewood to bank me up a good fire to stay warm. This is pretty cool because if I leave one side of the roof open, so if I, right here, what I'm doing behind me, if I cover this side with fir boughs to protect me overhead and leave the other side of the roof open, which it is right now, I can actually put a fire in there, and the fire is going to reflect all the heat inside up onto me, and I'm going to have no problem staying warm and dry. But firewood, building a shelter, lots of other possibilities, even a backup striker for your ferro rod. Have yourself a folding saw. This is the Silky Pocket Boy Outback Edition, which I've been using for a couple of years now. Use it all the time to get fat wood too. Right up on the hill over here is some really nice fire starting fat wood. Okay. Another item that I recommend that is absolutely essential for me. Okay, knife is obvious. I won't even get into knives. Everybody has their personal choice on knives. Some kind of a small hatchet that you can carry on your belt. This is the Grand Force Brook hand hatchet. If you go back through my videos, and I might get up here on the hill and do this shortly, you'll see me cutting pieces of fat wood out of stumps. There's a creek right here, and tonight it will be froze over, breaking through the ice. I don't want to break through ice with the point or the blade of my knife every time I need water. And I don't want to bang my knife down through a frozen stump to pry out pieces of fat wood to get me a good hot fire starting. That's where my hatchet comes in. I'm going to bang through the ice, no problem on the creek, break the ice, and get me some water that I can boil or use my filter through. I'm going to use this to help construct shelter, to cut these boughs. I'm going to use it to help poles, and if I need to hammer something down in the ground, I want to, the wind is coming, I need to put a reflector behind my fire, I'm going to hammer my posts down into the ground with that. All right, let's continue on, and eventually we're going to get to fire, and we're going to do a fire, and I may get some of that fat wood. We'll just see how it goes here. Okay guys, I just did a video on vehicle survival in the winter. Please watch it if you haven't. I talked a lot about a coffee can survival kit in your vehicle all winter long. I showed a few things that should be in there, namely a reflective blanket. Sorry guys, I heard something up on the hill behind me. Might have been a coyote. Reflective blanket like the SOL heat sheet. Watch that video, please. Some lighters, backup fire starting if you're going to use this in your vehicle, and candles. But if I'm going to leave my vehicle, so I've got all this in the vehicle. If you watch the video, it'll all be explained in it on how to use this inside your vehicle if you're stranded, to heat up the inside and stay warm with the candles and the lighter and the reflective blanket. But if I'm going to take off here on up this hillside, I'm going to go Christmas tree hunting, hiking, whatever, I'm going to take my reflective blanket with me, unless I already have one in my kit, which I do. I've got my fanny pack. So I've got one of these SOL heat sheets in my kit, and this one in my can, which is in the rig. But here's the deal, like this shelter you just saw, if this is on one side of me, this is behind me, okay, I've got poles, I don't need a lot of covering because I will put this reflective side blanket in the poles behind me and a fire in front of me. I am going to stay very, very comfortable, warm and dry. The heat from the fire is coming at me. It's going behind me, reflecting off the blanket and reflecting back at me. So the heat is all around me. If I've gotten wet, it's going to help me get warmed up and dried out that much quicker. Now, the cheap Mylar blankets, I did a video on this. If you poke a hole in it and go like this, the whole thing splits into pieces. If you take the SOL heat sheet and poke a hole in it, which is actually hard to do, you can tug and tug and tug and jerk and pull and wad it up and pull and jerk some more. It won't rip to pieces. It will stay together. Much better material. All right, one more piece of clothing gear, and then I'm gonna load up. We're gonna actually cross the creek and head up the hill. A poncho in your pack, your fanny pack, you know, attached to your belt, whatever. This will help you if it warms up a little bit. Okay, earlier this morning it was snowing heavy. If it had warmed up a little bit, it would have turned to rain. The poncho's going to keep me dry. It's also going to help keep me insulated from the wind and the cold a little bit. It's going to come in handy for emergency shelter and a whole lot of other uses. This is Miltech brand. They're on Amazon. There's a lot of brands on there. This one has the snaps and the grommets. It'll set up as a quick A-frame, a quick lean-to, a quick shelter. You could put up your emergency blanket with this over the top of it and stay warm and dry with the fire out in front of you. Or if you're on the move, like I said, and it warms up and starts to turn to rain, this is going to be a lifesaver in keeping me dry while I'm on the go. All right, guys, I got my fanny pack on, my survival kit, my shoulder pouch. I did a whole series of videos on these and what's in them. My winter clothing. And as you can see, I've got a pocket full of fatwood, which is something that I always have in the wintertime. You know, I may not have a long piece like that, but I've got short pieces in here too. But I always leave my vehicle with my flint and steel, cotton balls saturated with petroleum jelly, which we're going to use in a minute, and fatwood in my pocket. So let's go cross this creek. All right, guys, bear with me. I'm gonna cross this creek here, and as I said, here's where my waterproof boots come in handy, because I'm gonna walk right across this stream. It's fairly shallow right here, but it's actually gonna go up to my ankles. My feet would be completely soaked if I were not in good waterproof winter boots. All right. So we're gonna go on up the hill here, and we're gonna talk about a few other items that I consider to be essential. So here we go. Right up here across the creek, an old stump filled with fatwood. Now I can chop some of this off, but it's just easier to baton. And I've showed this in a previous video. It's much easier to get this fatwood out of this stump with a hatchet than it is with a knife. All right. So down inside here, it's dry, it's nice and wet on the outside, but you get on the inside and you've got fatwood, and you can take your saw and saw into the side a little bit. Like so, and then just take your hatchet and there we go. Look at that. That is pure, wow, that is pure fatwood. So for shelter building, making fires, just a small hatchet that you can wear on your belt so that you won't leave it behind in the vehicle because it's big and heavy and awkward is an absolute essential here in the Otsego Mountains. And you know, that would be exactly the reason that your mountain men and trappers of old always had a hatchet or tomahawk as part of their essential gear. Okay, so I split me up some more of that fat wood, plus I took that long piece that was in my pocket that I still have a bunch more in my pocket, and I split it down. We're going to take these pieces of fat wood, and I got a fir tree over here with some dead small stuff on it, and just do a real quick fire lay, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about fire starting essentials that you should have with you. All right. Just got me a dry place kicked out under a tree here. And some material. And I got that fat wood. And I'm just going to make like a little log cabin on top. And I'm going to leave that open. Have some more ready to put on it here in just a moment. Okay. I did a video recently for you guys. Please check it out if you haven't seen it. Comparing lighters, ferro rods, and matches. And I talked about and actually demonstrated what happens when they get wet. When the lighter gets wet, it's raining, you get your lighter out to light it. Rain gets down inside there, or if it's below freezing, the lighter stops working. Same with the matches. I showed that if the outside striker gets wet, it stops working. But the ferro rod, it doesn't matter. I can put this in water, put it in snow, whatever. It's still going to make sparks. And with that being said, then your best fire starting source becomes cotton balls saturated with Vaseline, petroleum jelly, and a ferro rod. Because it does not matter if it is snowing or if it is raining. It just really doesn't matter. This is going to be a guaranteed fire starter if you know what you're doing. It'll get you plenty of burn time. So I've got some cotton balls saturated with petroleum jelly in a little Altoids can. I'm turning it inside out, and I'm going to put that down inside here. I'm going to put this little fat wood on top of it and this fir tree behind me, break off a bunch more limbs, get that going. So just like that, we now have flame. That easy. I'm going to build my little fat wood cabin up just a little bit. And then I've got these bigger pieces that I just cut out of that stump. So I'm going to lay them in there. Just doesn't have to be anything real specific. As long as that flame hits them, they're going to burn. So I got all that fat wood in there. I'll grab some bigger limbs off this tree behind me. All right, so I got me a nice fire started, and I'm under a fir tree with enough dead firewood to burn for a long time that I can just break off. But I've got my saw if I need to saw something bigger, and I've got my hatchet if I need to restart a fire later. That stump is only a few yards from here, and that's filled with fat wood. So again, this is not an extensive list. These are things that I have found to just be absolute essential and useful to enjoying myself and staying safe out here. So my number one go-to fire starting source is a ferro rod and petroleum jelly saturated cotton balls, pet balls. So rather than worrying about a lighter getting wet or being below freezing, or my match striker getting wet and the match is not working, and I demonstrated that in a recent video, I got my rod, which will spark regardless, and I've got petroleum soaked cotton balls, which it doesn't matter if they get wet, they get dropped in the snow, the creek water hits them, I'm turning that inside out, and I have got fire. So again, not an extensive list, guys, not a complete survival kit, but I want to show you one more thing that I consider to be absolute essential for enjoying myself out here, making life easier, and if it comes down to it, real survival. So you got fire, you're going to need a way to stay hydrated. So it doesn't matter if it's a stainless steel round water bottle or a stainless steel canteen, but you need to have something with you that you can carry water in. You should already have it filled with water when you leave the vehicle, so you can stay hydrated. Also, if this starts to freeze, this is extremely cold because it's stainless steel, I can warm this up by the fire, melt the ice that's in it, or if I'm trying to get warm, I can warm the water and drink warm liquid. Have something with me, some kind of hydration drink, cocoa, whatever, pour it right in here. But you should have something with you around a cup that sits underneath your water bottle, or a canteen cup that sits under your canteen. This one's filled with snow, so that I can, if, okay, the creek's froze over, I'll use my hatchet, break the ice, get water, come up here, warm the water up, and drink warm liquid. But what if I'm away from water? What if I have hiked way up this hillside, down the next valley, and I'm stuck over there, and I've used up the water in my canteen? I've got snow, but I don't want to eat snow or drink cold water. So it's going to take a couple fillings. That snow will melt down into drinking water. Take some more snow, scoop up some more with that, and just keep filling it until I have a full cup of water to drink down. I can fill my canteen with snow and have water to carry as I'm back on the move. But having, like I said, a water bottle with a cup, or a canteen with a cup under it that you can use to get snow. Also, I'm surrounded by pine needles. I can chop up some pine needles, warm that water up, put that in there, and have a refreshing pine needle tea. And I usually have emergency drinks or cocoa with me. So I'm going to be good. I'm going to stay hydrated, have something that's warm, tastes good and comforting, and a way to carry water. And if I'm not near a stream, but I'm out here in the snow, something to melt and get water, so that snow will melt down, and I'll keep adding snow until I have a full cup and drink that down. Just move it closer to the flames there and stoke my fire back up a little bit here shortly. All right, guys, again, Dan at Otchka Bushcraft. Just some items that I consider to be an essential part of the kit. If you're going to be up in the Otchko Mountains or an area like the Otchko Mountains this winter, hiking, recreating, whatever, these are items that you may not have thought of that you might want to add to your kit. Again, I didn't cover all the fine details of, first aid kits and compass and things that you should have, but these are some additional essential items and favorite items that make life out here much more enjoyable and comfortable, and worst case scenario, that much easier to survive. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe to the channel. Stay safe out there, everyone.